Welcome back for another video. Today we're going to be talking about the best tight end one-hit wonders of all time. And this is a shorter list. Tight end position really only became prominent, recently. So in this list, I got together four guys that I think could qualify as one-hit wonders. And we're going to actually start with a couple of Browns guys. The first one's going to be Jordan Cameron. Now, I look back to this guy in high school, his senior year of high school, he had 73 catches, 1,022 yards, and 12 touchdowns. Like, he was an absolute stud in high school. He played basketball and volleyball in high school. He ended up going to BYU where he played basketball. He chose to play basketball instead of football. But after redshirting his freshman year, he decided to transfer to USC to play football. USC ended up denying some of his credits from BYU, and he was forced to withdraw, and he attended Ventura College. Now, he ended up missing the football season, which he would have ended up doing anyways. Like, the way the transfer rules were at that time in 2008, he was going to end up having to sit out the year anyways because he was transferring. But then he enrolled at USC in 2008 and played wide receiver in 2008 and 2009, but didn't record any catches. His senior season, he ended up moving to tight end where he caught 16 passes for 126 yards and a touchdown. Somehow, someway, he ended up being selected 102nd overall in 2011 by the Cleveland Browns, and he ended up seeing very little playing time in his first two seasons. In 2013, though, he put up a great season, catching 80 of 117 targets for 917 yards and 7 touchdowns. Even in today's NFL, that's a really good season by a tight end. Like, is it enough to get into a Pro Bowl? Maybe not at this point, but that's a really good season for a tight end, especially back in 2013. Unfortunately, he never caught any more than 35 passes any given season the rest of his career, and he only played 6 seasons due to getting 4 concussions in that time frame. The next Browns tight end we're going to talk about is Gary Barnidge, who attended the University of Louisville. And if you look at his stats, he did more and more every year. His freshman year, not so much, but every year he did a little bit more and a little bit more until senior season where he finished with 53 catches for 655 yards and 7 touchdowns. Which isn't spectacular. He didn't have a spectacular college career, but you look at it, he's 6'6", 250 pounds. With that kind of physical profile, you're not even looking at the athletic profile, just that kind of physical profile. This is a guy you would assume going to be drafted at some point. He ends up being drafted in the 5th round, 141st overall in the 2008 draft by the Panthers. He ended up spending 5 seasons with Carolina, missing the 2011 season with a broken ankle. But he played pretty much only special teams while he was in Carolina. He ended up signing with the Browns in 2013 and was still playing special teams throughout the first 2 seasons. But as you go into 2015, before that point, he had 44 catches for 603 yards and 3 touchdowns in his entire career. In the 2015 season, even though the Browns ended up being 3-13, they were complete garbage like they normally were at that point. Barnidge broke out as a star tight end in the NFL. He ended up finishing the year with 79 catches, 1,043 yards, and 9 touchdowns. And those 9 touchdowns ended up tying Ozzie Newsome's franchise record for touchdowns in a season. He was voted to the Pro Bowl as an alternate in 2015. Probably would have been the same this day and age. But that was a really good season from a tight end that had been playing special teams pretty much his entire career. Then you look at 2016, the very next year, it was a respectable season. 55 catches, 612 yards, 2 touchdowns. But after that season, he was released by the Browns and would never play football again. Now, the next one is an interesting case of a one-hit wonder. Some people are going to say that he shouldn't be on this list. But let me make my case why Eric Ebron deserves to be on the one-hit wonder list. Eric Ebron attended the University of North Carolina, where he set records for catches and yards by a tight end in school history in both his sophomore and junior seasons. In the latter season, he was a finalist for the John Mackey Award, which is for the best tight end in the nation in college. He ended up choosing to leave college early and entering the NFL draft, where he was selected 10th overall by the Lions in the 2014 draft. So leaving early from college seemed like a pretty good idea. Now, his time in Detroit was pretty up and down, as all things are in Detroit. Some of that is because of the Lions, some of that is because of him. And you look at it, he did have a season with 61 catches, 711 yards, and 1 touchdown in 2016, which is what people will look at and say, this is the reason he doesn't belong on the one-hit wonder list. But if you look further at not only who his quarterback was while he was in Detroit, but you look further at his drop rate and the fact that he was always one of the worst blockers at his position. And you'll see why 2018 is the real one-hit wonder season. So after Eric Ebron was released by the Lions, he ends up going to the Colts, which as a Colts fan, that was great. We were getting Andrew Luck back, so bringing Eric Ebron in, that was a great move. We needed weapons at the time. So then you look at that season. His drop rate for the 2018 season was 8.2, which is a career low. You want to see that percentage be lower for any player. 8.2 is still pretty high, but that was a career best for Eric Ebron. And realistically, as a Colts fan, I can tell you he was one of the most vital pieces of that Colts offense that season. And he finished the year with 66 catches, 750 yards, which isn't, those numbers don't blow you away, but he had 13 touchdowns, which is a remarkable number for any player in the NFL. When you look at it, he only recorded 20 touchdowns in the other 7 seasons that he played combined. The Colts went on to win a playoff game that year. And again, Eric Ebron was a massive part of the Colts' success that season in winning 11 games. But then you go to the next season. Of course, Andrew Luck ends up retiring in the preseason. At that point, Eric Ebron, you can go look at reports, go look back on Twitter. Eric Ebron quit on the Colts, and he ended up going to the Steelers. While he was on the Steelers, he would be among the league lead for drop rate once again, and he would have career lows in averages for yards per catch. At this point, he is currently a free agent, but at his age and given what you last saw from him in the NFL, he's unlikely to ever sign with a team and play football again. And the last tight end that we're going to get to is going to be Logan Thomas. And this might be premature. He is still playing on the Commanders, but I went ahead and put him on here anyways. And you look back at Logan Thomas, I thought it was interesting when I look back at his career and how he got to where he is. He went to Virginia Tech to play quarterback and actually finished as the school's all-time leader in passing yards and passing touchdowns. He was later drafted in the 4th round in the 2014 NFL draft by the Cardinals, and he spent time as a reserve quarterback for the Dolphins and the Giants before he eventually switched positions to being a tight end. After switching positions in 2016, he was picked up by the Bills off of the Lions practice squad. Didn't do anything in 2016, but then in 2017, he saw some playing time due to injuries to some other tight ends. And he ended up actually catching a touchdown from Tyrod Taylor that season, who was his teammate in college. Now, 2018, 2019, there were some more down years where he barely had any action. But then you look into 2020. That's the year where Logan Thomas finally saw some action. He finally had an opportunity, and he was able to make the most of it. He goes on to a team that at the time was just a Washington football team. They were in the middle of changing their name. They were in the middle of having their owner have a bunch of accusations. There were so many distractions, but this was a franchise that he decided to go to, and this is where he found his opportunity. And the guy that was a converted quarterback was able to finish the season with 72 catches, 670 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Now, this isn't going to be the greatest one-hit wonder season of all time, but again, this is a converted quarterback, a guy that was going into a situation that had craziness all around him. He didn't have a star quarterback like Eric Ebron did. So I think this was a noteworthy enough season to go ahead and add it to this list. Again, Thomas is still on the Commanders, but injuries have kind of slowed him down. He's getting up in age, and he's almost assuredly never going to be a top tight end again. So this is my list of one-hit wonder tight ends. You let me know if there's anybody you can think of to add to this list. Let me know down in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe and keep coming back from off-season content, and we'll see you for the next video.